In my last video, I kind of glossed over how you cut and solder headphone cables, specifically ones for the iPhone or iPad that have an integrated microphone. It is not straightforward, and I'm going to try to make this as informative as that previous video, but I'm going to also try to keep it going a little bit faster and be less boring. If you go too far, you will melt the varnish that is attached to the wires in the process of making it. So you just want to go just far enough to be able to pull this outer casing off. And as you can see, it was attached slightly there, but it just went ahead and pulled off. Okay, now is when things get a little bit tedious. On this TRRS cable, and they're going to be similar across the board, there are maybe only subtle differences. The top one is red and green twisted together. That's mic and mic ground. This is green and yellow. That is the ground for the left audio. This is just a cord for strength, just an integral fiber. It has no purpose other than strength. Red is right audio positive, green is left audio positive, and then red and yellow twisted is the ground for the right audio. So now we have to go through the process of opening up all these little bitty, I call them fibers because that's kind of what they are. They're just tiny little copper strands. Open them all up, and then we have to light them with a match or lighter. I'm spinning them clockwise. As with a lot of things that we do with repetition, you will get better at this. I know it seems kind of daunting, but this is what you're looking for. Now you simply have to pull out the core and cut it off. And now when you have this many wires opened up to each individual strand, twist the end together just slightly. And what this will do, this will keep too much surface area from being exposed, allowing too much flame, and the end result would be melting most of these copper wires, and that would be bad, and it may happen anyway. So the best thing to do is get ready to blow the fire out once it reaches about a ½ inch, and then you continue on. Alright, now as we look close at this, looks like I melted through maybe 3 wires. That's okay. We're going to add solder to this, and it'll we'll get back anything that we did lose. Cleaning the fibers after you burned off the varnish, what I call varnish, it probably has a special name. Simply pinch your fingernail and your finger together and clean them off the best you can. And they'll be all crazy looking like this. Now we twist them together. Alright, at this point it looks pretty good. You continue on and you do the same for both grounds, left and right audio, and the left audio positive itself. An important note in each of these wires is these fibers. Very strong and hard to cut. I suspect that they're either fiberglass or some kind of really tough aramid. So that's what they're for, and by cutting them and removing them, you do compromise your joint, and when you actually do solder all this back together, you make sure you have good shrink wrap or type, some type of strain relief that will keep this from pulling apart. Alright, for this next step, you need to know which pin goes to which wire. So the tip is left audio positive, the middle is right audio positive, and the base is the ground. I have it cut as shown here. The ground is just a twisted bare cable, and I assume without checking that the red is the right audio positive and the white is the left audio positive. So you know for sure, use an ohms meter on a continuity setting. If you touch it to the base and the bare wire, you should get a beep. If you touch it to the tip and the white wire, you should get a beep, and the middle and the red wire should be a beep. There are a couple ways about going about this next step, joining the wires. With most applications, I would recommend tinning the wires first, and that's just simply heating the wire with a solder station and using your solder of choice to add lead or whatever solder you happen to be using to these wires to make them more rigid. But sometimes it's hard to get a good tin on wires this small. So what we're going to do is wrap them to the 3.5mm conductor and then just go ahead and do the solder. But first, if you don't have flux core wire, you need to add flux. and you can either use homemade flux or store-bought flux. Just don't use that stuff that they use for copper pipe. That will corrode your wires. Alright, this is the point in the process where you would slide on your necessary heat shrink tubing of whatever side that you're going to use. I just realized I'm out, so I'm going to do this tutorial without it. Gathering up the two grounds now, I'm going to twist these together. Red goes to red, green goes to white. Twisted the white and green wire together. Let's make this solder connection. Now the green and yellow and the red and yellow wires that were twisted together will go to the braided ground. And plenty of flux core solder for this one. Now at this point, this is very fragile. All of this is very fragile. And what I would do, I would butt these up like this, and I would bend the wires wherever they would go to keep them from contacting each other, and either tape or CA glue them together, then slide the heat shrink tubing up over them. The main thing is just getting this connection to where you can't be moving it around. However you want to do that is fine, but it is a good idea to, if you had it, slide up heat shrink tubing over it. Okay, so now we're nearing the end. This is ugly, but if you'd had heat shrink tubing, of course, this would look really nice. And this is not completely taped up either, and it's just with cellophane tape. It's fine for this process, but black tape would be better. So I'm just going to give it this test now. I'm going to see if I can hear something through the earbuds and let you know what I find out. Alright, so there's no smoke and mirrors here. I wanted to show you, before I finalize the connection, that everything sounds as I said it does. Perfect clear audio left and right channel. I'm going to hold up each one of these to my mic that I'm wearing now. Nearing the end. This is ugly, but if you'd had heat shrink tubing, of course, this would look really nice. And this is not completely taped. Black tape would be better. So I'm just going to give it this test now. I'm going to see if I can hear something through the